John Mearsheimer argues that the war in Ukraine was provoked by the West, that NATO expansion left Russia no choice. From a structural realist view, this seems logical. Great powers resist encroachment, and Ukraine turning west was the final straw. But history doesn't follow that pattern cleanly. Between 1999 and 2004, NATO admitted Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, former Soviet republics with large Russian-speaking populations directly bordering Russia. No war, no invasion. Putin was already in power. Then in 2022, Finland and Sweden joined NATO, adding over 1,300 kilometers of new NATO border, and still, no military response from Russia. Finland's proximity to St. Petersburg is strategic, yet Putin accepted it. If NATO expansion automatically triggers Russian aggression, these cases are hard to explain. Mearsheimer does not seriously address them. His model also suggests that the 2014 Maidan protests were manipulated by the West, but the trigger was President Yanukovych's sudden rejection of an EU association agreement under Russian pressure, not NATO's. The agreement was economic, not military. The protest was spontaneous, mass-scale, and popular. Moreover, Ukrainian support for NATO was low before 2014. It surged after Russia annexed Crimea. The causality runs in the opposite direction. And the 2022 full-scale invasion? There was no active NATO offer on the table. Putin's own speeches and essays show his rationale. He denies Ukraine's nationhood, claims historical unity, and frames the war as a civilizational restoration, not a response to military threat. Structural realism, as Mearsheimer presents it, has explanatory power, but it flattens critical distinctions. It treats the US and Russia as equivalent great powers, ignoring regime type, moral legitimacy, and institutional strength. A liberal democracy with constitutional constraints behaves differently than an authoritarian petrostate. Mearsheimer must explain why some NATO expansions lead to war while others are ignored. Why Baltic states with Russian minorities were tolerated, but Ukraine's independence provokes invasion. Why ideology, memory, and national identity now shape international behavior as much as geography or firepower. But instead of adapting, Mearsheimer doubles down. He treats new realities as exceptions, not evidence. His framework no longer explains, it deflects. What began as a theory of strategic behavior has become an intellectual entrenchment, a defense to the last, not of realism, but of a position long overtaken by events. Mearsheimer's realism doesn't just strain under Ukraine, it collapses.